Man, tired. I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there, what I did, and I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, you know, just told saying I just needed a break right there.
Indianapolis Colts are going with a quarterback change. Joe Flacco will be starting this weekend instead of Anthony Richardson.
Of course they're benching him. Like it wasn't even an option.
All right, boys, welcome back to another video. Swaggy here. Today we're going to be reacting to the Anthony Richardson news. Colts coaches met Tuesday morning and ultimately decided to change quarterbacks. Sources told Fowler and Schefter, opting for Flacco over the struggling Richardson. I mean, this definitely has to be a combination of two things. Richardson, like it says, has been struggling. He's been arguably the worst starting quarterback in football. And on top of that, he goes out there and says he took a play off on the goal line because he was tired. And that just didn't sit well with the Colts. And it certainly didn't sit well with the rest of the league because there was multiple sources that came out and said that the Colts just had no choice here. I mean, it wasn't even an option to continue playing Richardson. And this is huge for the Colts because, let's be real here, Anthony Richardson is one of my favorite players in the league. Him and JT are probably my two favorite players on the Colts as a fan of the team. They're significantly better without him on the field because he's been bad, he's inexperienced, he's inaccurate. And to this point, I think it's mental too, right? He didn't come out of that game because he was physically tired. He had to just been mentally tired. He was running around. I didn't think the Colts offensive line played particularly well in that game against the Texans. But I mean, come on, man. 3rd and long, you got to be out there trying to help your team pick up that first down or just get into better field goal range. And Flacco came in, handed off to JT on a draw or whatever. But it's just not a good look for our team. Everyone's talking about the Colts right now, but not for the right reasons. I don't have an issue with Richardson necessarily struggling as much as he is because he is the youngest starter in the league, and we knew he was a project. We knew that there was a chance that he might not be a good quarterback in the NFL, but we knew that there was also a chance he could be a great quarterback. And you take a look at his passing stats in the games that he started and finished. I mean, we're looking at 212, 204, 167, 129, 175, right? So 2 games over 200 passing yards, and that's not to mention the accuracy has just been flat out abysmal. I mean, Richardson on the season is completing, he's completing 44.4% of his passes. I mean, that's the lowest in decades, guys. It's really unheard of to have a quarterback completing that few of his passes. And we're looking at 59 of 133, 7.2 average, 4 touchdowns, 7 picks. Of course, he gives you ability with his legs, right? So you look at Richardson with the rushing yards on the season, he is at 242 yards. He's got a touchdown at 41 carries, 5.9. So he's helping the Colts run game, but it's just to the point where he can't be out there anymore. The Colts are they're not able to win games with him. And we saw that, of course, against the Texans, right? Richardson throws a pick, it leads to a touchdown. If that pick doesn't happen, then the Colts win this game. I mean, we'll never know that, but there's a very high probability they win this game. They lost by 3, and that cost them 7 points. Yes, Shane Steichen on that 3rd down decided to throw the ball, but again, it's all about execution. Steichen calls the plays, the players have to execute, and Richardson just hasn't done that. I don't think we beat the Titans with Richardson out there. The Jags game, we lost by 3. That's because we gave up 37 points. We were able to beat the Steelers. Flacco ended up coming in that game. Like Richardson got off a hot start, blazing start. Remember that first drive, big time completion. But like, who knows, right? Like the Bears game, we barely won. Richardson was terrible. So, and then the Packers game, we win that with Flacco. The Texans game, probably win that with Flacco, right? I think the Colts are a very good team. I think with Flacco the rest of the year, they can make the playoffs. Like at Minnesota versus Buffalo, at New York against the Jets, all of a sudden these games don't look as bad as they really did maybe a few weeks ago, just because like Flacco, there's a lot of trust in him. And of course the defense was pretty good against the Texans. It was really good. The front especially. I don't like our secondary that much, but our front was really good. I think we can dominate all 3 of these teams we're about to play. And versus Detroit at home, at New England, at Denver, versus Tennessee, at New York, versus Jacksonville. So I do think we're going to get very hot at the back end of the schedule. But in terms of Minnesota, Buffalo, New York, to me, can we get 2 of those 3 games, right? I think we can certainly beat the Vikings. Can we beat the Bills? We're at home. I don't know. The Bills are a tough team, man. We're at home, so there's a chance. At New York into the Jets, that's a game I've just got to have. The Jets are struggling, man. There's really no reason we should lose that. I know they've got a good defense, but you have to realize that the Colts have a lot of weapons. This is a very talented team. We have some of the best weapons in all of football. We've got Jonathan Taylor, who's a top 3 running back, Michael Pittman Jr., Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, we don't have a wide receiver one. We don't have a CeeDee Lamb, a Justin Jefferson type of player. We've got a lot of guys that can go out there and make plays. Alec Pierce, right? And then the tight end position, we've got a couple of good ones in Molly Cox and Colin Granson. It sucks about Jelani Woods. I thought he was going to have a big time year. Offensive line, it's impressive. Will Fry's placed on the IR. It's just devastating. Dalton Tucker replacing him at right guard. Braden Smith, Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson. I mean, we're talking about Pro Bowl, All-Pro type of players. Bernard Ryman's one of the more underrated left tackle. We've got a good offensive line. We've got a great front. It's just going to come down to our secondary and just making sure that we're able to capitalize down in the red zone. One thing that I will miss about Richardson is when we are in the red zone, his ability to use his legs, because all of a sudden everyone's a blocker, and that's a huge advantage for the Colts. But, I mean, getting down to the red zone has been an issue. The Colts just have not been scoring very many points. Like I said, against the Packers, 10. Against the Bears, 21. We're talking about with Richardson, of course, 16 against the Dolphins, right? So, I mean, this game, Sunday night, it's a huge game for the Colts. We had a chance to literally beat the Texans and go to 5-3. That would have put Houston at 5-3. We would have been tied with them. Literally, we would have been tied with them, but we just let that fall away. And to this point, the division, is it out of reach? Not necessarily, but it just doesn't look great. But we can still make the wild card. And the goal for me coming into the season was 10 wins. Can you go 10-7, win one more game than last year, and make the playoffs? That's it, right? That's a huge leap, is one game away from the playoffs to making the playoffs. But, I mean, the Colts just haven't really set themselves up to do that with Richardson. But can we beat the Vikings? Because if we lose to the Vikings, all of a sudden we're below 500. I don't want to be below 500. I don't think anybody listening that's a Colts fan does, especially with the Bills coming up, right? Because all of a sudden, if you lose to the Vikings, you go to 4-5. And then if you lose to the Bills, you're 4-6. And at that point, you're talking about pretty much having to win out. So it's important for the Colts, and especially with the Detroit Lions, lurking, right? They're a team that certainly nobody's going to expect the Colts to beat. I mean, there's always a chance, of course, any given Sunday, but it's just important that we do get this game against the Vikings. And I think we've got a great chance to do it. I think the Vikings have a good team. They also have a lot of issues that are starting to circulate. I mean, they were undefeated, and all of a sudden we see them dropping a couple of games. It's looking, they lost to the Lions, remember? And then they lost to the Rams on primetime. So can we continue to make sure that they lose? I mean, that's going to be the goal here. But in terms of Richardson, it is disappointing because there was a lot of promises rookie year. He only played in 4 games or whatever, but only started and finished the Rams game. But there was just a lot of optimism for me heading into the season. I know he had a slow training camp, a preseason. I didn't think it would exactly translate to the regular season. I was definitely wrong, and that Richardson has just not looked good. But is he going to end up being a buzz? Is he going to end up being a disappointing pick? I mean, who knows? He's only 22 years old. I do think Richardson ultimately will get another chance this season because, again, the Colts used the 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft in him. So it's not like we're just not going to see him again. But the thing about Joe Flacco, though, is that he's just not a normal backup, right? This isn't Andy Dalton, with all due respect. I know they're both veterans, but Joe Flacco's won Super Bowls. He's had incredible game-winning drives, historic moments. I don't think he ends up losing the starting job due to play. I mean, again, yes, he is 40 years old, so maybe he does put together a couple of bad stretches. But I do think that if the Colts go back to Richardson, it would be just because of the pick that he was and to give him another chance. But maybe they go with Flacco throughout this tough stretch coming up. I mean, we're talking about some very, very good teams: Minnesota, Buffalo, New York, Detroit. And then all of a sudden we're against teams that we should be favorited the rest of the year, right? Maybe at Denver we're not going to be favorited, but pretty much every other game that we play we will be. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on the video, man. It's your boy Swaggy, and you guys will find me over on my Colts channel too. I'll leave that in the comments and in the description for you guys to go sub. But yeah, peace.